Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I am Peg Tuttle, your host of the Incredible Eye Show, and I am super excited to welcome you all to a really awesome series of podcasts and interviews that I'm doing all around AI. I'm super happy to welcome to the mic Michael Gallagher, CIO over at Lightedge. Welcome, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Peg. I'm very excited to do this. Very excited to talk about all things AI, of course.
Yeah, wonderful. So before we get started, I like to spend a few minutes just having you talk a little bit about yourself, a little history about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, CIO at Lightedge, I've been here a little over 7 months. It's been great. Before that, I was at Sitecore for about 7 years, in a various number of roles, business solutions, digital transformation, AI and automation. I have a computer science background, so I've been a computer nerd and a data nerd my whole life. So this time is extremely exciting to be involved on the technology side as it's changing every day, every week. And I'm really looking forward to what's to come here at Lightedge.
I work for Lightedge. We are a provider in this entire ecosystem, not just IBM Power, but all things, like VMware, Nutanix, all of the other co-location services, managed services we provide for that too. But today, and for our conversation today, we are going to be talking about AI. And so, Mike, you have an extensive history of bringing AI into companies and implementing it. And I know for a lot of people out there, it's scary. It's scary. But you know what? Let's just spend a few minutes here talking about, like that hype versus reality. And there's a lot of noise out there around AI, from, co-pilots to automation to agents. And with your perspective as a CIO, what actually is real out there today? Is it still hype or what?
It's very much real. I think what I've seen and what we've been able to do is two different things, I would say. The productivity side, there's a lot that it can come in and help pretty much right away as you start to look at the tools and how they're embedded into certain things. But the other element that I think has been amazing to see is the mind transformation of employees. So as you start to work with different people or provide use cases or show them how this can work in their daily lives, how this can work with work and personal, all of a sudden, like, you can see the gears moving in real time. Oh, okay, well, if it can do that, then can it do this? And yeah, of course. Well, did you try writing a prompt? Yeah, let me see. Oh, this is great. Oh, I could also use it for, and the ability to almost rapidly change your thinking about it as you're being exposed to it is just, it's phenomenal.
As you brought in, AI, or you start talking about it, was there a specific department or a group that really latched onto it right away and said, oh my gosh, this is going to change my life?
Yeah, so actually, funny enough, in both at Lightedge and at Sitecore, the group that's been front and center raising their hand has been the HR department. And one of the very simple use cases is, if we clean up all of the content on the HR side and put it into an LLM, can the rest of the organization ask AI all of the things that they would ask their HR representative? Holidays, benefits, different policy bits. And the groups both really appreciate this idea of, I'm getting pinged all the time about these same questions.
Yeah.
Maybe the documents are posted in a company SharePoint, or they're posted somewhere else, and maybe it's hard to find, or the search doesn't quite work. But if you present to them an interface in Teams or ChatGPT or something, where they can just ask a simple question in natural language, have a conversation and follow-ups, and they don't need to go to that HR person that just happens to know the answer. That HR person can stay focused, do their job, and everybody in the organization is able to get what they want, right? And
Yeah.
not only have I seen the HR departments raising their hand and saying, hey, like, help me, right, get this thing. They're also love the testing. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, that's neat that it can do it. Can we also add this? And they've been along for the ride, and it's been exciting to see.
And when you mentioned HR, I was thinking, hold on a second. You know what? We didn't even talk about guardrails. How do you set AI up in your environment so that HR and sales and tech can all take advantage of that? So do you have any tips for, folks that are out there that are just getting started with regards to AI and putting those guardrails up?
Absolutely. So let's break this down into two different things. So you have enterprise data. So, data that's coming in from your SaaS systems or unstructured data. So we'll have that parking lot. And the second would be, say, enterprise content or information about your organization. So policies, benefits, PDFs, maybe product marketing materials, sales pitches, those types of things, right? So you have two different types of data or content. For the HR side, we'll be talking specifically about content. What we've been able to do is, ring fence what you're allowing AI to go after. So instead of saying go after everything that's ever been produced in an organization, because let's be honest, nobody likes cleaning up. So you have drafts and you have documents from 2017 and you have version _6 _copy _final. If you come up with this idea of let's ring fence what's our production content in the same way that you would go through an SDLC process or the same way what you would put on your website, if you think about your content in the same way, point your AI or your LLM at that gives you that, hey, it's only going after the things that we have decided to allow it, right? As opposed to saying, look at 1 million documents that anybody's ever produced in this company and try and come back with good information. Chances are your prompt may be good enough, LLM may be good enough, or the RAG may be good enough, but if you help it help you by essentially saying, look at these 75 files or 200 files, the information you're getting back is relevant, but also the business users have a stake in it. So they know if they keep their content up to date, the rest of the company is going to benefit from it. So now you have that traditional back and forth between technology and the business of, if we give you the guardrails and we give you the system and the tools and you own your space, we can build this bridge together, and it's working together.
Mm-hmm. So then when you're evaluating AI tools from a CIO perspective, CTO perspective, what do you have any criteria that you would use, or is it just looking at, I think about programming, like the language, there's a specific product for a specific programming, thing. When you're developing a product, there's specific products for that tool or tools for that product, right? So when you think about, there's so many AI tools out there. How do you start with, which one do we pick, or how do we know which one is the best one for the specific use case, if you will?
Sure. Yeah, so you talked about it, right? What are your use cases? What are you trying to solve?
Yeah.
Does it need access to data? Does it need access to content? Another sort of data set, depending upon the type of company you're in, is your IP. So is it getting access to your code? Do you have any concerns there? When you talk about Cursor or, Copilot, those types of things.
Yeah.
What's top of mind for CIO or for, a CISO would be, is it secure? Is the content that we have secure? Do you have the right terms and conditions in place to make sure that your content, your IP, your data isn't going and being used to train? It's not going to leave, your LLM. So, in those types of use cases, it's extremely important that your information is not leaving, that type of LLM or that company. I think the second thing is you're looking at use cases, and we're seeing this pretty much whomever I talk to, is you went from SaaS sprawl to AI sprawl. And so now all of a sudden you have context switching all over the place. You go to Copilot for this or ChatGPT for this. And so you think about, what's our front door strategy? What do we want? Where do we want people to go so they can get what they need? And you're not back to 17 tabs open. Where do I go to for this? I have 14 GPTs or 5 Copilots or whatever the case may be. You don't want to try and solve this contextual problem of how do I be more efficient by giving people 18 things.
Right.
And so, the tools, the use cases, the employee experience, all of those things come together as you're trying to pick what's going to be the right tool or tools to help. And, each SaaS tool that we have in our stacks, they're developing AI features inside of them, right? When does it make sense to leverage the AI features inside of the tool versus building one AI can reach into each. So we talked a little bit about data, but that's kind of where that data element comes in.
I know for some people it's going to be super overwhelming. How do I get started? What's that one small thing? Low hanging fruit. And do you have any tips around that at all? Like, hey, if I was going to do this again, based on what I know, this is where I would start.
Yeah, it's a good question. We did something fun at the last place to kind of help break down the concerns with prompting. We actually did a 30-minute all hands on prompting and just basically made it interactive. So I opened up my screen and just did the prompts in front of everybody. And I did the prompts to produce my presentation for the presentation I was on. So it's, hey, I'm Michael Gallagher. I have an all hands. I want to be able to show them, blah, blah, blah. Helping people understand what are some simple things you can do. You're not going to break it. Trust that your organization has put the guardrails in place. Don't go out and put company information into unsanctioned tools, right? So make sure you understand your AI policy and your, all the fun things we make you do every quarter to make sure you're safe. One, going and trying it. Two, listening to podcasts like this one to understand what's happening out there, right? And give you that encouragement, as you're driving or flying or walking, get yourself immersed in what's happening out there, because each corner of the world is doing something different at the moment that you can learn from. Just try it. Just go and be curious, right? You can really benefit yourself and what your next role and your next job is going to be by getting in front of this, because it's not here to replace you. It's here to supplement you. It's here to make you more efficient, but it's going to change how roles work. Don't be scared, go give it a try. Go talk to your peers, right? There's a lot of people in our organization that are leading the charge, right? Hey, can I get 15 minutes of your time? I saw you mentioned this on the all hands, or I heard about this. It's that time to, if you're an introvert, be extrovert for 15 minutes, right? Or, be curious. But the world's out there for you to go do it, to go try it. And I think once you get started, you'll kind of enjoy it.
Nice. I've been using AI for a super long time, so I love it. I love it. And not just for planning my vacations either. I use it for work. And so I love that. But two things. First off, you talked about security and working with your CISO. So is that, would you include that in that very first steps of, hey, we're going to bring in AI. Let's talk to our security professionals on our team and just take a look at what are they familiar with? What have they been exposed to? What are their thoughts on how to roll this out?
I think, you can absolutely try things and try tools and try things that you're seeing and hearing about, as long as you're not putting company information in, or you're not on a restricted laptop or something like that, right? So you want to make sure that you're doing it safe, you're doing it, because it's okay to be curious and it's okay to try things, even coming from a CIO. But it's okay if you're saying, I'm going to Austin in 3 weeks. I want to go, play out, what does this look like, right? Or, I'm doing a fake presentation, talk me through it. It's okay to go and give those things a try. But if you want to bring something into your organization where you're going to be having access to any of your company data, any of the critical data, any sales, anything like that, it's very important that your first step is, what's our AI policy? How do we bring this on board safely? Do we already have a tool that does it? So, I think there's an education to be had across the organization that says, oh, I didn't even know that tool did it. And you might say, well, yeah, they just released this new update last week, and now we're able to do it. So yeah, I think starting there, where that that CISO and that security function is going to have that visibility over everything, and how do we bring it on board safely?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is key. A year ago, a year and a half ago, that was definitely the conversation. But now I think it's around that secure. How do I secure it? The security, the compliance, having all of those elements in place. And I think that's where we're all headed towards. Let's talk about adoption. On our pre-call, we talked a little bit about adoption and champions inside the organization. How do we work through that adoption and I think in our company, everybody was super excited when it was announced that we were bringing AI internally. Everybody got excited, and the messaging around it, if you're not using it, it will most likely replace you. So you need to understand it. You need to know how to use it so that you can use it to really help advance your job and your efficiency, I guess, and your ability to do your job more effectively. But I think for some folks, they might be a little nervous about getting started with it. They might not know. It's like a new programming language. I don't know. I don't know if really have the time to do this, or I don't really want to learn that product. I don't have time to do this. So do you have any like advice for folks that are trying to get past that adoption issue, or that finding a champion to help champion it in a company?
Yeah, both at Lightedge and at Sitecore, the role of AI champions is something that happened at both places, and huge success. So you're looking for curious folks, as we talked about earlier. It's okay to break an egg every now and then. You're looking for change agents. You're looking for people that can rally folks. So let's say, for example, like our solution architects. I don't do their job every day. I don't know what's going to resonate with them. But if I get an AI champion that's a solution architect, they're going to be able to bring their business challenges to the larger group. And when we go back to the people that are maybe skeptical or scared or confused, you're going to be bringing AI use cases that are specific to them, that are talking in their language.
Yeah.
So you're not just you're not coming to them and saying, "Oh, AI is going to help," without knowing their problems. Well, if you have this change agent, you have this AI champion. Now you're speaking their language, right? You're saying, "Hey, this thing that you have to do every Friday that takes 3 hours, and you hate it? Well, guess what? We spent 20 minutes last week. We built this thing, and we've done this. Now, if you go do these 4 steps, that thing's done." And they go, "Wait, what? Huh?" And it's been incredible to see at both places these AI champions coming out of their shell, right? They're people that aren't the people that speak up in all hands sometimes, right? And they're people that are, just somebody that was waiting for an opportunity to go, "Hey, wait a minute. I've been, just like you said, I've been doing this for 2 years. I'm ready to go. And I have this great idea, but nobody will listen to me." And they come to this forum, they say it, and everybody goes, let's go do that, right? And now all of a sudden you have an engineer working at night because they're excited about it, right, on their own time, and you have this person providing business context, and then at the next all hands, next thing you know, you got 2 people that never spoke to each other ever presenting. And so I think that's what's important here is you do get those people that are coming forward and helping you apply it inside of the organization, whereas where I sit, I see the things I see, but I don't see the rest of it.
I think the other thing too is like that you talked about automating the mundane, making it easier, faster, quicker to do. But then also, I think once we start experiencing that piece of it, I just think about like my brain just explodes with, oh my gosh, there's so much more that I can do now. I've completely automated part of my job that I can get to this other stuff now.
Absolutely.
And I think of it from not just a technical, like a programmer or a developer using AI, but from a salesperson's perspective. I had the privilege of meeting with a couple of our folks on our product development team here, and we were talking about sales enablement and salespeople using AI tools and what tools could they develop for us. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great to have like a psychology of the buyer persona kind of thing, like if one of my calls, I could put it into the transcript into AI and have it give me, oh, how did, from the tone of the voice, from the words that were spoken, how did the call go? What would, based on the words or the feeling from the recording, I was just like, all of these things started coming up, and I'm like, this is, people talk about the psychology of buying, right? People buy from people that they like. Mm-hmm. But and so I was thinking, well, how do we bring AI into the psychology of buying and selling? So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I know.
And I would say you're probably a dozen to 2 dozen times I've had a conversation with somebody in sales or marketing in the last 2 years that have said this exact same thing, right? And there are tools out there that do it and help it, but those tools out there cost a bazillion dollars. And so if you can go and take some of these things and quickly run through it and give you that advantage, give you that and also it gives you the confidence as a seller, right? As you're going into the next conversation, hey, that last call went great, except for these 2 things. Let's clear the air on that right off the bat, and now we can rebuild that relationship, right?
And then I think about like, just across the company, there's everybody has, I think, a use case for it. So it's like, again, how do we, get people excited and wanting to try it and, really creating that business impact, When you look at, what you did at your previous company and, things that are happening now at Lightedge, what kind of business impact are you seeing? Maybe conversations that are happening, at the C level all the way down to, the users like us, like me. So
Yeah. As you start to bring in different data sets into your enterprise data and put AI on top of it, you're having natural language conversations about years of your sales data, your financial data, your unstructured, logs or other things like that, that you're able to take a whole lot of noise and make signal within seconds and make signal in the way that matters and benefits to you, right?
yeah,
And so I could get, I could look at 3 years of sales data and I would have probably a question as a CIO about what I'd be interested in. You would take it and have a whole different series of questions that you would, be all excited to get out of it, right? And that's real. Like, and it's happening now. It's happening safely. It's happening, at your fingertips. It's real. Like it's not hype. You bring your data in, you put a little bit of a semantic layer on it or give it some guidance, and off you're going, right? And if you're not doing that, I can tell you that the competitor on your RFP is. That's where you really got to dive in. Take all of our help desk data, right? So we get all of these tickets and we look at the last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, trends, highest points, SLAs, what knowledge base articles are missing. Now I can be smart and structured on what projects should we be doing.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
And so can we use AI or automation to solve some of those things? Okay, great. Do I need to go get training for somebody? Do I need to go communicate to the organization? Here's how you go do this. Do I need to do self-service? So I'm taking AI to make myself more informed. I'm using AI to help the team know that, hey, you're being listened to. Yes, your work is impactful. And then from there, can AI solve the problems? In certain cases, yes. In other cases, it's just we need to clean up our business process or we need to be more smart. We need to be more deliberate. So, but it's a perfect example of, before that would have been dashboards of data and looking at SLAs and mean time to resolution, which might have told you some things. But now with just natural language and pulling that data in, I'm able to be very, very quick, very, proactive and really it kind of it gets the team excited, right? They're, oh, cool. Like, yeah, given these things, let's go do this. Let's go do this, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. And I think just the fact that it delivers the information so succinctly and perfectly,
yeah,
I mean, granted, there are some hallucinatings that goes on, and we all know that, and we all know to double check the information. But I think that would be kind of a spot check kind of thing. Is this really accurate, or do we get different results?
absolutely.
Putting the information in differently. But I think, yeah, it's amazing what's going to happen out there, and just the efficiency that's going to happen with
Yeah.
the businesses.
I mean, your competitors are doing it for sure. And so are the other folks that are in the same career path that you're in and the same titles and the same things. So, it is where we need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. This is going to be my last question before we go on to our one incredible thing. We'll spend a little bit of time here. But, we hear a lot of hype out there about AI taking jobs, companies laying off people in droves because AI is taking over. Do you think it's real or do you think it's hype? I mean, I think that there's going to be jobs that are, replaced with an AI tool product. But what are your thoughts on that? Should
Yeah.
people be afraid?
I don't think that people should be afraid that they're going to lose their job. I think they should be afraid that that there's going to be faster and different ways to get things done, right? And so I would say for the large layoff point, I think some of that is it's an easy excuse at times, doing a restructure or those types of things, right? I would say that I think what you will see is that this is going to create different roles, different functions, different pockets of efficiency, different ways to do things that we couldn't do before. That's going to open up opportunities. It's going to open up different ways of thinking. It's going to open up different ways to get to get the job done, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's really as you're sitting there and going, is AI going to take my job? I think that the real thing is, am I learning? Am I still at that point where I'm
Yep.
curious and I'm understanding what's coming around the corner? Like being a technologist, that's always been part of the gig, right? If I would have still been on Oracle 9 database and C++, I'd be a dinosaur at this point, right? But that's the world that I started in. And then the data warehouse then showed up, and hey, you got to keep learning. You got to get certified, and you got to be curious.
Yeah.
I think this is the same sort of thing, right? Is that if
Yeah.
you're not learning and you're not growing and you're not adopting and you don't have that growth mindset, I think that the world's going to be a different world for you.
And as technologists, that's what we do. And if we're not bringing back into our companies ways to make this happen and get things done, you maybe go to a conference and you're getting education and you're learning new things and you bring all of these great ideas back. But you go to conferences, you get information, you bring all this information back, and then you don't share it, you sit on it, your job is to go and get information, bring it back. And granted, it's not all going to be used. It might, a couple of them, I don't know, whatever your business is, maybe you need it, maybe you don't. That's our job, people. It's to go out, get information and bring it back and share it and continue it to learn.
Yeah.
So,
I talked to somebody I worked with, just this week, and we were talking about agents they were building and
yeah,
the equipment and some of the things. I talked to the HR team earlier, but another group that's been a great advocate for AI and automation has been the procurement teams, right? This like manual process for all these years at times and different systems and different like that's ripe for this. And procurement team, at my last company was writing Power Automate scripts, was building intake forms to automate different steps. How do we use AI to read terms and conditions? How do we use AI to interface with legal better, right? Like how do we, all of a sudden it just kept clicking. It was like, okay, well, we just did these 3 steps. How do we do the next 3? How do we do the next 3? We're in the process of having those cross-functional conversations with the 6, 7 different departments that get involved and making sure the company's safe. Okay, how do we use, it's a great example of, seeing how something that you do every day can now be different. So procurement's not going away, but how does procurement do things differently, more efficiently? So your SLA to bring on vendor goes from 3 weeks to 3 days. Wow.
yeah, 3 hours.
Excited
Yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
it's
Yeah.
a click, a point and click, and you're done.
Yeah. And now you're having engineers talking to procurement people about, well, what are your checks? And now they're talking to legal people, whereas, 2 years ago, they would have never talked to each other. They would never thought about it. You'd be scared, like, oh my gosh, procurement, right? So
Yeah.
those
Lawyers.
those are the types of things where I think the world is different, and you can work together to make it a more efficient, better.
No, I think that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I love this whole AI topic. I know that some folks just say, oh, I don't want to talk about it, or, everybody's talking about it. And I'm like, well, you need to be talking about it. So thank you for a super enlightening conversation. I know that a lot of people are going to get some great advice from you and some first steps to make that change, or maybe they've started that change and now they're just trying to figure out what are my next steps. So, all right, now we're on to our one incredible thing. So what is your one incredible thing this week?
So recently, I had the excitement and joy and luxury of going to Universal with my family and more specifically my 2 daughters, who are huge Harry Potter fans. So while I said before I'm a computer nerd, I'm also a huge sports fanatic. I've become a Harry Potter person while reading all the books to my kids, but that world just immerses you. Like you feel like you are in Harry Potter, right? And so I had the excitement of my children, and my wife's a big Harry Potter person. So I had the excitement of seeing their faces and, just seeing them running around. But then I pan away from them, and now I'm the one that's just awestruck, and just, the all of the thinking that went into that, the design, the little nooks and crannies, the windows, and you can get a wand and you can do all the different tricks, and I just I as a professional and somebody that sits in corporate and does planning and all these other things, I can't even imagine the level of detail and the thinking and the whiteboarding and the story creating, that started with the books, obviously, and the movies, But to go create that world where millions of people go and have the same experience I did, right? It's just incredible and so sophisticated, so welcoming. The rides were great. Like, every part of it was just really,
Yeah.
really cool. And like I said, I'm the sports guy. You'll see me at a stadium more often than not, and to just completely lose my entire sense of the world, other than I'm in Diagon Alley, I'm Alfred's Alley, or whatever the case may be, right? Or not
Yeah.
Diagon, Alfred's, but yeah, it's really cool.
Nice, nice. Okay, so the hot question is, okay, so which house are you?
They say my children, my one's Ravenclaw, and the other one is
Raven's Claw too.
yeah. There you
Yeah.
go. So,
Yep, absolutely. And then favorite ride?
the Hagrid's motorbike,
Oh,
like
totally.
like
When
and,
it goes up, it was so fun. It was
yes,
so fun.
I was just absolutely incredible. And again, the attention to detail of
Uh-huh.
every part of that ride, and the walk in, and if you are even the slightest bit Harry Potter, and I don't know if Universal will give me money for this, but yeah, you got to get.
Yeah. The attention to detail is amazing.
Yeah,
So,
and it's so cool. And my children will be talking about that, forever, right?
yeah.
Like they just,
Yeah.
so
What a great experience. My husband and I are empty nesters, and we work remote. So why not work remote somewhere else? And so my one incredible thing was just spending a month down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. It was super, super awesome. For a whole month, getting up in the morning, going out to watch the sunrise, working, going back out to the beach and watching the sunset every day. It was absolutely beautiful. Sugar sand,
yeah,
loved it. Great places to eat, seafood every day, and it was so quiet and so nice. So not like it is in the summertime when there's a lot of people that converge on,
sure.
Gulf Shores. But I don't know if you guys need a place to go for some sun and fun and beautiful sunrises and sunsets.
So did you use AI to pick Gulf Shores, or did you use AI to plan anything you did while you were there?
We used AI for the whole thing.
All right.
So from end to end. So from picking the place, finding the rental, working with that part of it, we created an agent. And then my husband's super into AI as well. And he just wrote his very own MVP
Oh,
for a product that he wants to launch. So yeah, it's been really fun. Something that would have taken forever and thousands of dollars and a group of programmers, he did in 5 hours.
that's incredible.
I
What
know.
is-
I know.
So,
So
but
that's,
I'm glad that you're not just talking it, you're doing it. So,
yeah, we're living it. So yeah, so we used it, the whole thing. Oh yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, I used AI to plan our entire almost 3-week trip to Europe as well.
oh wow. I think
Everything.
you guys know.
Hotels.
I said I think we have to do another podcast to talk about Europe.
I know. We should. We
Yeah.
will. Yeah, we'll plan that. So, all right. Well, thank you so much, Michael, for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure. I loved our conversation. And, anytime you want to talk AI around the office, give me a call.
Always will do. Thank you for having me, and you have a great day.